probably the only event in the whole tri-state area where that's taking place outdoors. Most normal people tonight are in their dining rooms, sitting by the fireplace, watching the beautiful flames, consuming the wood, or doing other wonderful things in the privacy of their home, with the temperature up 73 degrees, or maybe Mahadrin 74 degrees, Mahadrin Mina Mahadrin 78 degrees, Ladaz Beishameh and Beis. But some people, some folks decided tonight to actually be outdoors. It may be the coldest night, I think, in this winter yet. Global warming has not affected tonight's night. Maybe it'll affect tomorrow's morning. Global warming seems to travel only to Los Angeles and Miami. Somehow New York and Ukraine are excluded from the global warming. But I don't mean to tamper with such a sacred cow, heaven forbid. So we're here outside, and I see some of you are really dressed for the weather, as we're in this wonderful semi-warm and semi-cold tent here on the night of Yud Shevat. So it behooves me to share a story that popped into my brain as we were dancing, and I saw somebody leave and bring back their down coat in order to be able to participate in our gathering here. The story I heard from the Bala Maisa, the person himself. It's an appropriate story both because of the weather, because of our location, and because of the person whose yahrzeit is commemorated tonight. The Maisa I heard a few years ago, Grada on Sukkot. He came into my sukkah. He was an older Jew. He passed away already a year or two ago. He was the rabbi of the community in Memphis, Tennessee. I don't know if any of you have been to Memphis. You have been to Memphis. He was the rabbi of Memphis, Tennessee for probably a yovel, close to 50 years. His name was Rabbi Zalman Posner. Zechrono Livracha. I'm sorry, I stand corrected. Nashville, Tennessee. I stand corrected. Very good. Yeah, Nashville. I was in Memphis not long ago, so I got confused. Nashville, Tennessee. And he's the author of a book called Think Jewish, the founder of, I think, Akiva Day Schools there. So I once asked him, I said, he came to Sukkot once to our table. I said, Reb Zalman, how did you end up in Nashville, Tennessee? So he said that he got the offer to be a rabbi. He was a very young man, back around 1949. That's Tufshin Tess. Now you have to understand, even New York in 1949 was in many ways a desert relative to what it is today. Nashville, Tennessee, from a Jewish point of view, was a desert within a desert. Midbar be'eretz lo yizrua, in terms of Jewish education, in terms of kosher food, in terms of Jewish community, of Jewish observance, of Torah, of yeshiva. It was a desert of deserts. So naturally, he did not want to take the position of moving out to Nashville, Tennessee back in 1949, Tufshin Tess. The community there, the Jews were there, asked the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, who was alive at the time, the Rebbe Rayatz, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, whose yahrzeit is on Yud Shevat, as I mentioned, to influence the young Zalman Posner to take the job. So one day, the Rebbe Rayatz calls in Zalman Posner, he told me. And he goes into him. And these are the words that the Rebbe, the sixth Lubavitcher Rebbe, tells this young man. This is what he said. When the neshama is about to be born, when your soul, any soul, is about to come down into the world to enclose itself in a body for the journey of life, the soul says, Ich will nicht herabgehen. He was speaking in Yiddish. I don't want to descend. Why? Says the soul, up here, it's warm and bright. Here is warm und lichtig. Down there is kalt und finster. Down there is cold and dark. Up here, it's warm and bright. Why would anybody with a sane mind or heart want to descend into that place? So the neshama says, I don't want to go down. So the Rebbe looks at him and he says, Zogt men the neshama. They tell the soul, gay, go down. And here he described the scene. The Rebbe Rayatz, half of his body was unfortunately paralyzed in the last decade of his life. He suffered from terrible illnesses, and he was physically broken in many ways. He suffered terribly under the Soviet Union. He was tortured, and then, the Holocaust, etc., and he had a lot of physical health problems. So half of his body was paralyzed. He also had a difficulty talking in his last years. He spoke, but it was very, very hard to understand him. So that's why he would often make gestures with his body to make the point clearer. But it took a lot of effort from him and pain from him to make these gestures with his body. So he said that the Rebbe wanted to describe the point. So he said, Zogt men the neshama. They tell the neshama, gei arop, go down. So he said he took his hand, his holy hand, and he lifted it up, so to speak, describing the soul. And he said, Zogt men the neshama, gei arop. And with his whole body, he made this motion of go down. So gei arop, go down. And he said, and he saw the sacrifice it took for the Rebbe to illustrate this to him in his private room. They tell the neshama, go down to a place that is dark and to a place that is cold. Kedei aduzolst dorten machen warm und machen lichtig. So that you should transform the cold climate into a warm climate and the dark space into a bright place. And he looks at him and he says, far in Nashville. Go to Nashville. In other words, the Rebbe linked the particular question of where to live to the general question of why I'm born. You're telling me I don't want to go there because it's a desert, it's remote, it's dark, it's cold. And I'm telling you the whole reason the soul came down to the world was to transform coldness into warmth and darkness into light. So the neshama wants to be in a place of warmth and light. And they tell the neshama, go down and bring warmth to a place that needs it and bring light to a place that needs it. And off he went to Nashville, and he remained there almost till the end of his life, literally building a community and transforming in many ways the face of the community, creating an educational system for hundreds of Jewish children and then thousands of Jewish children. When I was there a number of years ago, I saw some of the results of his work. So that's, I guess, the reason why this great community of Ohr Chaim, which is adventurous and original in so many ways, felt that tonight's night should be commemorated outdoors. Where would there be a better place for this message? But the truth is that the message contains, I think, a lesson, a profound lesson to everybody. And that is, every person in their life confronts on a daily basis darkness and coldness, confusion and apathy from within ourselves and from outside of ourselves. And there's two ways of responding to it. One way of responding to it is, oi, my life has so much coldness and my life has so much darkness. A deeper way of responding to it is, I was sent into a space of coldness. I was sent into a space of darkness because I have the tools and the resources to be mahapech choshech la'or, to bring light where it's dark and to bring warmth where it's cold. I was once in Pittsburgh. I met a Yid there. His name is Rabbi Balestrin. He tells me a Maisa that he was a young man. He lived in Rhode Island. And there was an old chazan there. He was always the cantor, the daven, and he was from the old style chazanim. If somebody would speak in the middle of Chazaras Hashatz, he would stop and he would turn around and he would tell them to be quiet in the middle of Chazaras Hashatz. You know, the old style American chazanim, there were no kunsen. I'm the chazan, I'm in charge. So he says, this Yid was an old-timer American. He told them a story that happened with him. What was the story? He was traveling in 1927 in a car. Now, 1927, automobiles were not that frequent. And he was in automobile. You know what the automobiles looked like in 1927? Huh? Yeah. First Fords, whatever they were. So, Dalit Kamfas Haaretz. So he's in one of those automobiles. He was on a highway, and he got into an accident. He fell out of the car, and he was unconscious. They didn't have the technology that they have today. So the police came, they saw him, they declared him dead. They took him to the morgue. He's in the morgue, like Adam and Chava before the tree of knowledge, but with white sheets. And he's in the morgue. There was no room in the freezers. The freezers were packed, so they left him on one of the beds till one of the places in the freezer becomes available. He's telling the mice, the label Esther who told me the mice. He said, Beini lebeini, in the meantime, the man tending to the morgue came down to do his shift, and it happened to be a big, holy African-American brother. A black man. Big, strong, tall, muscular. Okay. Zestig ben anaviach. So, what happens? The African-American brother sees that there's place in the freezer, and here's a corpse. So he takes his bed, and he starts rolling it to the freezer. On the way, he wakes up from his coma. He wakes up, and he looks up. He's in white sheets, and he starts shivering. He's freezing. He's in a morgue without clothes. He's freezing. So he starts shivering. And this African-American looks at him, and he's like, look, they're looking at each other, and he's bringing him to the freezer, and he's about to lift him up and shove him in the freezer. So he looks at this African-American holy brother, and he says, I'm cold. The man says, you ain't cold, you dead. And I thought there's a profound lesson here in life. When you're cold, you ain't cold, you're dead. Coldness in life is the beginning of a form of spiritual death. They once asked a Jew, what's the difference between ignorance and apathy? And he said, I don't know and I don't care. When a person doesn't care, coldness is a sense of apathy, indifference. That's coldness. And then there's darkness. Darkness is, I find myself overtaken by all types of confusions and uncertainties, or sometimes by dark skeletons, ghosts, addictions, habits, issues, struggles. So the soul, the neshama says, was fällt es mir aus? What do I need this for? I don't need this. And everyone knows in their own life the coldness and the darkness that they have to confront, sometimes on a daily basis, sometimes on an hourly basis. So the one approach is, I'm a victim. And the question is how to deal with the situation. Another approach is, I'm not a victim. I'm a messenger. I'm an ambassador. The soul is warm, and the soul is light, is bright. And it was evaluated to be the one that goes into those dark and cold places. And the whole purpose is to bring in light, to bring in goodness, to bring in meaning, and to bring in warmth. It doesn't mean it's not a challenge. It doesn't mean it's not painful. But it means you wake up in the morning, for example, and suddenly you're bombarded with depressing thoughts. Or you're bombarded with anxiety. It happens to anybody? Okay, present company excluded. The Ezras Nashim relates to what I'm saying, yeah? Okay. Not at all, fine. The Ezras Anashim also relates, but, that was a baskel from the weather. You wake up in the morning and suddenly you have all these types of thoughts. Negative thoughts, depressing thoughts, anxiety, worry, stress, or middle of the day. And people suffer sometimes from mood swings, from different issues. So there's different forms of help, and everybody has to figure out the help that they need to live a productive and meaningful life. I'm not getting into those details. But there's one hashkafa that exists, that includes everybody and is helpful for everybody. And that is, don't define yourself at those thoughts. Realize that your soul was sent into this place and to this position and to this situation and to these circumstances because you have the ability to put them into context. rather than they should put you into context. You have to put your thoughts into context and not allow your depressing, anxious thought to put you into context. Meaning, they can put you into context by saying, this is who you are, you're never anxious, you're going to live an anxious, despaired, hopeless life. Or you put them into context. And that is, I was sent into this place, kedei zu anwarmen, de Kaltkeit, und kedei zu beleuchten de Finsternis. Sagt man de Neshama, nein, geh herab. I'm now quoting again the words of the Rebbe Rayatz. Go down in order to bring the warmth into the coldness and the light into the darkness. L'chaim, 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 l'chaim. Whoops, I'm again. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim. Take it away. Join us, sing along. Schämt sich nicht, don't be embarrassed. share with you a story. In my mind, the story captures a certain perspective, a certain hashkafa, a way of looking at a person, a way of looking at yourself, a way of looking at another person. Whether it's your child, whether it's your student, whether it's your friend, whether it's your spouse, whether it's somebody you know, an acquaintance, or even a complete stranger. But it's a perspective. The story I recently heard, and it's unknown. You'll understand in a moment why it's unknown. I never heard it before, and I guess I couldn't have heard it before because by definition it's an unknown story. I'll explain what I mean in a moment. I have a friend. We learned in yeshiva together. His name is Rabbi Levi Wolf. He is the rabbi of the Central Synagogue in Sydney, Australia. I think that's the largest shul in that entire hemisphere. Very good. I think it has a good few thousand seats, 3,000-4,000 seats, which fill up probably Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. But even a regular Shabbos, it's a huge, huge shul, very prominent, very dignified. And Rabbi Wolf Levi is the rabbi of Central Synagogue in Sydney. Okay? You gotta go with the music. You gotta dance to the beat, man. You can't ignore the music. So he sends me an email. Does email work with the music? Okay, you never knew that an email could be so dramatic. So my dear friend, my childhood friend, Levi Yitzchak, sends me an email a little while ago, and he says that Shabbos, he had a guest in Sydney. A guest from the land of Israel, from Eretz Yisrael, the president of the Academic College of Tel Aviv, whatever that means to you. His name is Reb Shloime. Reb Shloime is the president of the Academic College of Tel Aviv Yafo, it's called. So that he comes Shabbos to Rabbi Wolf, and they're eating the Shabbos meal. The middle of the meal, Reb Shloime says, I want to tell you a story. And this is the story. Listen to this. There was a young Hungarian Jewish boy who grew up in the city known as Szeged. Am I pronouncing it correctly? Some of you know it as Sigit, but you know how it's spelled? S-Z, right? E-G-E-D, I believe. Emes? So those who don't know Sigit, Nebach, pronounce it in other ways. Anyway, this boy grew up in Sigit, which, as you know, was a home to a very large, powerful, and vibrant Jewish community. And he grew up in a home of Torah, in a home of Yiras Shamayim, in a home of Yiddishkeit. He learned and then came 1944 and the invasion of Hungary by Nazi Germany transpired, and the Hungarian Jewry came to a brutal, brutal end. He and his family were uprooted. They were sent to the death camps. And most of his family perished in the fires of the Holocaust. He managed to survive. This young man managed to survive physically, but he bid farewell to his entire past. It's not that he left Judaism and became a secular Jew. This was something that happened to many of the survivors. But he was filled with bitterness and anger towards God, towards Torah, towards Yiddishkeit. And he went on to study. He became a very successful and prominent professor. First in Australia, then in Israel. And much of his life he dedicated to demonstrate the futility, the absurdity of Judaism, of the Jewish religion, of the Jewish God, of the Jewish faith. He was filled with animosity to Yiddishkeit. He became a philosophy professor, and he even authored a book about Judaism, where he explained that by definition, Judaism is a horrible theocracy, which basically believes in the oppression of human rights and individual rights and human liberty and individualism and freedom and all the values that we cherish and we hold dear. And Judaism fights them and craves for the person to go back to the Dark Ages. His book was published in Hebrew, his book was translated into English, it sold pretty well, in which he set out his belief about the religion that he practiced in his youth, his parents practiced, but he has completely abandoned and rebelled against. Now he was a shtickle Talmud Chacham, which of course makes things always more complicated and more juicy. Right? They say he wasn't an ignorant. There's an old expression from knacken semichkas vetmenish kanapikoiris, from how do you say knacken semichkas? That's not how you say it in English. Garinim zaktamer. From knacken semichkas means from cracking sunflower seeds all day in the schwitz. You don't become a heretic, right? To become a heretic, the music stopped suddenly. Reb Nachman says that everything in the world has a niggin, even Apikursus has a niggin. It's just Reb Nachman says you're singing the wrong niggin. That's what he says in Likutei Maran. Kol davar yesh lo niggin, even a heresy, you're singing the wrong niggin. Reb Moshe Leib Sosova says, Me'inyan le'inyan, he says, everything has a source in Kedusha, everything has a source in holiness. Everything comes from Hashem. So he says, what's the source of Apikursus in Kedusha? What's the source of heresy and holiness? So he says that there's something very holy in it. Why? He says, when you see somebody in trouble, you see somebody suffering, and they need help. So he says, you might tell yourself, you know, so the große Gott of the Welt, there's a big God in the world, He's going to help you. You say, have a wonderful day, Hashem will help you. He says, this is where Hashem wants. You should have a little nitzutz of apikursus. You should have a little spark and say, you know what? The buck stops here. I gotta do whatever I can. Hashem runs the world. Hashem knows what He's doing. But now is your turn to shine, to stand up for this person. Gewaldige Wort. Okay, anyway, so this man was a shtickle Talmud Chacham in Sigir. He learned very well. And he knew the text and he knew the sources. So his book wasn't just a book written by somebody, you know, who never doesn't know how to read the Chumash right to left, left to right, doesn't know how to look in a Rashi, a Tosfos, a Rashba, a Marsha, a Rebbe Akiva Eiger, a Bir Hagra. He knew his stuff, which made the book far more venomous because he knew what sources to quote in order to demonstrate his perspective on how horrible Kavayochel Yiddishkeit is. Shloime continues telling Rabbi Wolf, my friend, he says, the professor got older, and one day he fell ill. He was diagnosed with Yena Machela, with cancer. He says, I and a few of my colleagues, who were all in the academic world in Israel, went to visit this professor. He was already quite ill. He was in his house, in his bedroom. We went into him, we were just schmoozing and talking. So at some point, this professor pulled me aside, pulled Reb Shloime aside. He says, come into my library with me. He had in his house a library, a private study, with hundreds, thousands of books. He was an academic, he was an intellectual. I go into the library and he tells me, a few years ago, when I was a little younger, I wrote a letter to New York. I wrote a letter to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. The letter was very, very sharp-tongued. It was mean. It was vicious. It was very confrontational. And it was extremely critical. I basically knew the Lubavitcher Rebbe is also an intellectual. And I basically penned on paper all of my harsh arguments against God, against Torah, against Yiddishkeit. And I was extremely, extremely critical of the Rebbe's positions and his belief and what he's trying to accomplish in the world, to spread Yiddishkeit and so forth. He said, I didn't think he's going to answer me. The truth is that the letter didn't deserve an answer. It was so harsh. It was so disrespectful. It was so argumentative. It was so confrontational. I didn't think the rabbi would answer me. He's telling Reb Shlomo. But a few weeks later, I receive a letter. And the letter was written in the Lubavitcher Rebbe's own handwriting. Now, everybody knows that was unique. Lubavitcher Rebbe used to dictate his letters to his secretaries. And they would type it up. And he would edit it, correct it, and they would retype it, and he would sign it, and they would send it out, they would mail it. It was very, very rare that he should write a letter in his own handwriting. But he said, I received a letter back from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, from Rabbi Schneerson, in his own handwriting. And then the old professor goes over to a certain shelf in his library. He takes out the book. He opens the book, and I see in one of the pages, there's a piece of paper handwritten on it. And I take a look, I see it's a letter, and it's signed Menachem Mendel Schneerson. This was the original letter in the Rebbe's handwriting that he sent back to the professor. The old man, the professor, says, read the letter, read the letter. So Reb Shlomo is telling this to Rabbi Wolf, who told it to me just a few weeks ago. He said, I read the letter. He said, I can't tell you the exact words verbatim. It was a few years ago. But the structure and the content of the letter, I clearly remember. He said, the Rebbe opened up the letter first thanking the professor for writing to him. The first thing, he expressed gratitude that he took the time to share his thoughts, his feelings, his life experiences, and his perspectives with the Rebbe. He said the Rebbe wrote to him in a plural form, in a Lashon Rabbim, a Lashon Kavod. Not in English, everything is you. But in Hebrew, we know there's a distinction. It's like in Yiddish, there's du and there's ir. In Hebrew, there's also the way of speaking in a respectful way. That's how he addressed him. And then the Rebbe writes to him, allow me permission to inquire something I'm wondering about. I read your letter and I read your name. I saw your first name, I saw your last name. And I'm wondering, and I wish you can help me clarify your origin. Basically, the surname, the last name, your family name, doesn't it indicate that you come from this and this Litvische Jewish family? There was a famous Litvische family, and the Rebbe is very specific about the city. Does this name and this first name and last name indicate that you are a descendant of that family? Or perhaps this name was also shared by one more family of Vishnitzer Chassidim. Is it based on the fact that you come from Sighet, that you belong to this special great family of Vishnitz? That's what I would like to know. And he said, then the Rebbe finished off with a blessing and thanks, a very warm bracha, and he signed his name. I finished reading the letter, and the professor looks at me and his hands are trembling, and he says, these were his words, this was his question. Do you get what he did to me? Do you understand how he reproached me? Do you appreciate how he gave me musar? He didn't mention a word about my arguments, my insults, my heresy, my attacking him, my criticizing him, my denigrating him. Not a word. But do you hear what type of profound musar he gave me and how he approached me? He says, with these subtle questions about the meaning of what my name represents, he was basically reminding me that you come from a glorious past. You come from an incredible Jewish family. The only question is, other from the Litvisha, other from the Chassidisha, other from Vishnitz, other a Litvak, Kamoshe Kosov, a real Lithuanian or a real Vishnitzer. So he was telling me, although you have difficult questions, and I may not have answers for your questions, I want you to remember that you have roots, and don't detach yourself completely from the roots. And since I was older and I got the letter, I appreciated his message. Because the older you get, you sometimes come back to the most basic, primal truths about yourself, your own roots. He says, I finished the letter, he told me what he told me. He carefully takes the page, he puts it back in the book, he closes the book. And Reb Shlomo tells Rabbi Wolf, he says, I believe I was the only person whom he ever showed the letter, so it seemed to me. I don't know where the letter is today. I don't know if anybody has the letter, if anybody even knows about the letter, but I know that I saw the letter. And he says the professor passed away a very short time after that, returning his soul to its maker. And when I read the story, it reminded me a story that I heard mamish from the Baal HaMaisa. Shared this with me, he heard it directly. It's not Klei Revi, Klei Chamishi, Klei Shvi, like many stories. It's mamish Klei Rishon. Klei Rishon is mavashal. Klei Rishon cooks according to everybody. So here's the Maisa. He told it to me. His name was, he passed away not long ago, his name was Reb David Edelman. David Edelman was a Jew who lived in Springfield, Massachusetts for many, many years. Just passed away last year, a few months ago. He was a Ben Tishim, he was 90 years old. And he was sent to Springfield by the Baal HaYilula, by the Baal HaYartzeit of Yud Shevat, to open up a school there, Jewish school. And he led the school till his passing last year. For more than 50 years. Almost 60 years he led a school. Through thick and thin. Thousands of Jewish children came through that school. I knew him. So Eidel Yid. This is Rabbi Jacobson. I'll tell you a Maisa that I experienced. It was 1943, around 1943, the early 40s. He was learning in the Lubavitch Yeshiva in Taim Chitmimim on 770 Eastern Parkway, where Rav Gustman, Zechron Levracha, became a Rosh Yeshiva, I mentioned earlier. But this was before. He says it was afternoon break, the afternoon break, the lunch break. Bein Hasdorim, between the Zdorim. He says, me and my Chavrusim, me and my buddy, whose name was a Jew, his name was Herschel Fogelman. Rabbi Yehuda Tzvi Fogelman, who was sent to Worcester, Massachusetts, where he led a school for almost 60 years, also passed away a year or two ago. Also 90, I think. Rabbi Herschel Fogelman, Choshev Yid. So we were out there, outside of the Zal of the Beis Medrash, standing by the elevator, and what they call in yeshivish slogans, shoving the bull. I don't know how they say it today. What is it today? Schmoozing. Probably if it was 43, they were also smoking a cigarette. I can imagine. That he didn't tell me, but they were just schmoozing about what two yeshiva boys schmooze 3 o'clock in the afternoon in the hall of yeshiva. What do yeshiva boys talk about 3 o'clock in the afternoon in the halls of yeshiva? Any yeshiva bacham want to tell us? Huh? You talk about Torah. Psst. Okay. I see somebody trained you well. You even know what to answer. Very good. Okay. But Rabbi Edelman said we weren't schmoozing. We were just schmoozing. Two boys schmoozing. If you know the building of 770 Eastern Parkway, There's an elevator there. The Rebbe used to give dollars there, and from there you go into a hallway where you can go into the Lubavitcher Rebbe's office where he used to work, or you go upstairs where his father-in-law lived. The Rebbe Rayatz lived till his passing in 1950, and then his wife lived there till her passing in 1971. So he says, we're standing by the elevator, and the door opens up, and who comes out? The Ramash. The Ramash is the acronym of Reb Menachem Schneerson, which was the title that Hasidim used to refer to him during the lifetime of his father-in-law. He was a son-in-law, he married his middle daughter, so he was called the Ramash. Later he, of course, succeeded his father-in-law as the Rebbe, the 7th Lubavitcher Rebbe. Then he was called the Ramash in a respectful acronym. So it tells me, Rabbi Edelman says, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, he says the Ramash comes out from the door and he passes by. So he stops in front of me and Fogelman. And he says, Bachrim, wilt herren a frischen Wort von dem Rebbe dem Schwer. Do you want to hear a fresh Wort? A new, let's say, hot out of the oven, a frische Wort. A new, fresh insight that I just heard from my father-in-law, from the Rebbe Rayatz. You don't resist such an offer? Say, Avada, of course. So this is what the Rebbe tells them, and I have to tell you, it astounded me personally. You'll soon see why. The Rebbe says, the Ramash says to them, let me tell you what the Rebbe just told me. He says, you know, sometimes people walk into shul and they're not shomer Torah mitzvah. They don't observe Torah mitzvahs. Some of them came from the old home. Some of them were born here. But whatever the situation is, they don't practice any more Jewish life. You know my minhag, you know my custom is, I'm always very, very warm to them. I'm inviting, I'm welcoming, and I always speak to them with grace. Und ich bin sie mekarev. I always try to be kind and embrace them. There were older Hasidim, Chabad Hasidim, who came to me and said, Du fühlst sich nicht richtig. This is not appropriate behavior. By you being warm and kind to them, you're giving a hechsher. You're legitimizing in their mind what they're doing. You have to be harsh. You have to rebuke them. You have to tell them the truth about how terrible it is what they're doing. You're so warm and cozy and kind, and you have a nice word for them, and they go home feeling good about themselves. You have an ability to protest. And the Ramash tells the two Bachrim Lach, he says, listen to this. He says, and I didn't know if I'm right or maybe I'm wrong. I felt that this is a much more effective way of bringing them back to Torah. I felt it's essentially the appropriate way, but I thought maybe the older Hasidim are right. Maybe my judgment is clouded, and maybe I shouldn't behave this way. I had a question. So what did I do? Heint bin ich herein zum Rebbe. So I just went in a few minutes ago to the Rebbe, to my father-in-law, and I told him the story, and I shared with him my dilemma. I asked the Rebbe to tell me who's right. Should I change my behavior or not? He looks at the boys and he says, und das ist, was der Rebbe hat mir gesagt. And this is what the Rebbe told me. Der Eberste hat beschaffen, wenn a Tate und a Mame haben a Kind. Hashem created the world when a father and mother give birth to a child. Haben sie lieb dem Kind mit dem ganzen Herzen. They love the child with all their heart. And if you'll ask the mother and father, can you love them? How much do you love them? How much? And the answer is unbegrenzt. That's what he said. Unbegrenzt. You know what unbegrenzt means? Limitless. A limitless love. The love has no boundaries. Doesn't stop. The love doesn't go from here to China. The love extends infinitely. Wollt man gekannt meinen, als schon ein Stock in Platz für noch Liebschaft. So there's no space for more love. If the love fills your whole heart and beyond, that's it. Zet men, wenn der Eberste bencht mit noch ein Kind, haben sie dem Kind euch lieb, unbegrenzte Heit. Hashem blesses them with another child. They love this child oh so infinitely. And so with every child, somehow the magic is recreated again and again and again. Each child they love without limits, without bounds. We're talking, of course, about functional, healthy, wholesome parents. And then the Rebbe Rayat says, Aber Seda amal, was haben a Kind. Und the Kind loy aleinu v'loy aleinu, loy aleinu v'loy aleichem. Hat a chisaron in the guf. Sometimes a child is born with a terrible deficit in the body, with a disability, crippled, disabled. Sometimes, he said, se felt an aver. God forbid, a part of the body, a limb is missing, an organ is missing, or there's a defect in the body. Could be in the heart, could be in the arms, could be in the legs, there's an impediment. Says the parents look at this child, und zu dem Kind haben sie an eigenartige Liebschaft. You hear the Yiddish? For this child, they find a unique, eigenartig. New translate. Unparalleled, something special, a unique love. Exclusively unique. Sie haben schon gehabt an unbegrenzte Love zu den anderen Kindern. They love the other kids infinitely. That's true. But this child, because he or she is missing something, and missing something significantly, their heart goes out to this child. And there's a special sensitivity, love, compassion, affection, and attention given to this child. Und danach hat der Rebbe mir gesagt, und dann der Rebbe continued, der Eibishter hat lieb jeden Jiden wie ein eigen Kind. Hashem loves every Jew like his own child. Unbegrenzt. The love is infinite, it's absolute, it's unequivocal, it's non-negotiable, it's unconditional, and it has no limits. Aber Seda amal, was der Eibishter zet a Yid, und se felt etwas bei ihm, se felt etwas bei ihr. He sees a Jew that there's something missing. The Rebbe says, a Yid was leik nicht kind tefillin, felt etwas in the hand, in the arm. A Jew who doesn't put on tefillin, there is a defect in the spiritual arm, in the spiritual soul, in the arm of this Jew. A Yid was get nicht kind tzedakah, there's a defect in the hand. A Yid was leider nicht kind Torah, there's something in the mind of the Jew that's lacking. And he went through. A Yid was hit nicht Taras HaMishpacha, a Yid was hit nicht mikveh. Another element of the body that's spiritually affected. A Yid was leif nicht Tana Mitzvah, there's something missing in the leg. It says, der Eibishter git a kuk auf a Kind und se felt etwas. Something is missing. Und zu dem Yid hat an eigenartige Liebschaft. He possesses such a deep love, special love, because there's something missing. His heart goes out. The Rebbe looked at his son-in-law and he said, Und du fizich wie der Eibishter. And I want you to behave just like God. I want you to behave just like Hashem. This is what the Rebbe told these two boys in 1943. And I had the privilege of hearing it from one of them, Reb David Eilman. And I was thinking to myself, go tell somebody today that the Lubavitcher Rebbe had doubts about Kiruv. The Rebbe wasn't sure. Maybe he should become the quintessential zealot who says, no way, you're nice, you're critical. Now the truth is he was a big zealot. If you knew him, he was a very big kanoi, bigger than most people imagine. But his obviously soul was also mit kanos, schreckliche kanos. But it's fascinating to me that the Rebbe had a doubt. Tell somebody he had a doubt if his approach is the right approach or maybe he's wrong. He himself, he said he wasn't sure. He wasn't sure. But now look at something else. He had a Rebbe. He went to his Rebbe. He asked the question. And the moment his Rebbe told him what the right approach is, he never turned back. And not only he never turned back, one would never speculate from all of his writings and all of his talks and all of his letters, that number in the hundreds and thousands, nobody would even ever get a sense or a feeling that he himself once struggled with this question. What's the proper approach for American Jewry? What's the approach for the 20th and 21st century? What's going to be the future of Klal Yisrael? Ma Hashem elekecha doirish me'imach. Was will der Eberstein heintige dar? What's that? What's the derech HaTorah? What's Torah? What would the Baal Shem Tov say? What would Arizal say? What would Moshe Rabbeinu say? It was a question. And we know there were different approaches. Nara Pashte, as the Gemara says, different approaches, different paths. And he himself had a question, but once his Rebbe told him, this is it, there was no turning back. You don't even ever see a psahava minute, a question, azoy. I mean, he would sometimes discuss the question, but it was with such clarity. So you see the common denominator between the two stories. Sometimes you meet a person who's so argumentative, who's so harsh. The Rebbe didn't get into arguments with him. He basically told him, I just want to remind you who you are. That's the deepest way to influence a person. Because I can teach you from today till tomorrow the most brilliant things in the world. But there's nothing like telling a person and showing them who you are, what your roots are, what's in your blood, what your DNA is made up of, who you really come from, and what you really represent. When Yosef HaTzadik is in the abyss with the wife of Potiphar, no calculations helped. The only thing that helped was he had to see who he is, who his father is. He had to see his own image from the perspective of his father. So ultimately, really, all of Torah Baal Shem Tov, really all of Yiddishkeit, what does it come to tell a Jew? I don't want to make you into something. I don't want you to be a certain way. I'm just here to tell you who you really are. That's it. Remember that. All of Yiddishkeit is not telling you who you're supposed to be. It's telling you who you really are. If you could just if you could just dance a little bit and remove the psoilus, remove the toxicity, remove the negative energy, remove the layers, remove the shells. All I want to tell you is who you really are. Lech lecha. All I want is you should go to yourself. Lech lecha. You should go to yourself. So I want to bless us all that we should be able to profess that love to ourselves and to other people. To be able to love each of our children infinitely, to be able to love every Jew infinitely. And when we see somebody who's missing something, to be able to love them even more. Sama lecha nafshi, kama lecha besol, yeretzi I want to share with you a starke Wort. A beautiful, beautiful Wort. I heard this Wort from the Rebbe once, the Lubavitcher Rebbe on Erev Shavuos. I think it was Tovshin Memhei, the night of before Shavuos, I think in 85, approximately then. He quoted a famous Gemara. Everybody knows the story in Gemara. It's a Masechta Shabbos, Daf Lamed Aleph, Amud Aleph. The Gemara says that a non-Jew came to Shammai and he said, "Teach me the whole Torah while I'm standing on one leg." How long can you stand on one leg for? 30 seconds, 45 seconds, a few minutes if you're pretty good. Teach me all of Torah on one leg. It's a chuchot lulitz, it's a joke. So what does Shammai do? You know what the Gemara says? Dochafoi ba'amas habinyin. Shammai was a contractor and he had a measuring stick. He took his amas habinyin, his stick, and he pushed him away. So he came to Hillel. Teach me the whole Torah on one leg, standing on one leg. So Hillel does it. Hillel says, I'll give you all of Judaism in one sentence. It's not even 30 seconds. Ma da'aloch sani lechavrach lo yisav. It's 6 words. Give me 5 seconds and I'll give you Judaism. What you dislike to be done to you, don't do to anybody else. Zehu kol ha-Torah kula v'idach pirushahu zul gemor. This is all of Torah. The rest is commentary on this. All of Torah is commentary on this statement. What you dislike to be done to you, don't do to somebody else. Now go study the commentary. Now to study the commentary may take you a few centuries or a few millennia. But it's all commentary. You got the point. You got the essence. That's the story. Ask the Rebbe a simple question. Open up Pirkei Avos, chapter 1, the end of chapter 1. Shammai Yomer. Shammai says, Vehevei mekabel es kol ha'adam b'seiv eponim yafos. Greet every person nicely, warmly, with a shining countenance. How could you be such a hypocrite? How can you yourself behave in the exact opposite fashion? A non-Jew comes to you. He's part of Kol Ha'adam. He asks you a question. I want to learn the whole Torah on one leg. You feel it's ridiculous, it's absurd, maybe it's bombastic, maybe it's arrogant. You'll walk in to a medical school and say, teach me everything there is to know about medicine while I'm standing on one leg. Yeah. Go into a school where they study physics or science, everything about physics standing on one leg. It's the Machzl Tzonis, are you making a joke? This is 4,000 years of wisdom. Arucha me'eretz midr, rechava min yam. Torah is broader than the sea. You want it on, okay, I understand. It's inappropriate. So why do you take a stick? Arois, out. Be save upon him yafos. You could speak nicely. You could tell the person, listen, it doesn't work this way. It's not a joke. If you're serious, come back to me. This is really not for you. I don't think you understand what Torah is. I don't think. Give him the benefit of the doubt. Even if you think he's behaving inappropriately, you could tell him nicely and pleasantly, this is not what I do for a living. I'm sorry. Have a wonderful day. Take a coffee on your way out. Take some azoinas. Take a piece of cake. No, dochvay b'masa binya. So the Rebbe gave a laugh and he said, Shammai says you have to welcome every person b'seiv eponim yafos. That means as midaf mekabel ponim zayin Shammai oich b'seiv eponim yafos. That means when you're talking about Shammai, you also have to be pleasant and warm. So when we learn the Gemara about Shammai, we have to accept Shammai also b'seiv eponim yafos. So he said a vart maybe in 11 seconds or 10 seconds. He said it's not the place to talk about it because it was all derech hagav. But he said a halbe vart, mamash a halbe vart, to explain Shammai. And I'm explaining it the way I understood it. I'm telling you literally 9-10 seconds of vart, even less maybe, very, very short, but it's a perspective. The Rebbe said as follows. Shammai was not a hypocrite, Chalila. Shammai was teaching the person kol ha-Torah kula regalachas. Shammai, when the Gemara says he pushed him away with a stick, it doesn't mean he threw him out, he rejected him. It means something much deeper. Chazal speak very, very subtly. You have to be able to look deeper into their words. Shammai was answering his question. Teach me the whole Torah while I'm standing on one leg. Shammai said, I'll teach you the whole Torah while I'm standing you on one leg. What's the whole Torah? Dochafoy b'masa binyan. And this is what he said. Torah stands on two pillars. Torah stands on two eternal foundations. You'll open up the Aseres HaDibros. The first two Dibros, the Rishonim say the first two commandments, capture all of them and the whole Torah. What are they? Anoichi Hashem Elokecha, lo yih lecha elokim acherim al panai. Number one, I am your God. Number two, don't have other gods. Why are both important? If I'm your God, you don't have other gods. Because in life, there's two motions, there's two movements, there's two pillars, two foundational ideas and axes upon which all of Judaism revolves. One is Sur Meirah, one is Asay Tov. One is the ability to be able to say no, and one is the ability to be able to say yes. And here's the truth in life. There's no yes without a no. There's no such a thing, I say yes to everything. I embrace everything. I embrace everybody and everything. I say yes. It's not a real yes. A real yes, a real commitment must include a no. A person can't say yes to nutrition, yes to living a healthy lifestyle, and yes to eating everything at the Kiddush, yes to the Viennese table, yes to running every day and exercising, and yes to make sure I finish the cholent and the kishka and the herring all the way to the bottom because I say yes to everything. You're making a fool out of yourself. If it's a serious yes, you must say no to things that undermine the yes, that distract you from the yes. Harayat mikudeshes li, under the chuppah. So what does Tosfos say? What's mikudeshes? Two explanations. Kedushin daf beis amid beis. What's mikudeshes? One is mikudeshes, miyuchedes, mizumenes. You're designated to me. We are becoming husband and wife. But there's another interpretation. Asra akula alma kehektish. There's a yes and there's a no. A healthy relationship has a yes. The yes is we're together. But there's also a no. The no means that there's certain red lines we don't cross. Not because we don't love all people. We love all people, but there's a husband and a wife and it's a special relationship. A person tells their spouse, I love you and I love everybody just like you. I'm equal with everybody. I say yes to everybody and everything. You undermine that particular yes. Every yes includes a no. The same is true in Avodas Hashem, in serving God. There's Sur Meirah and there's Asay Toiv. There's the ability to say yes, but every person needs the ability to be able to say no. To say no to addiction, to say no to negative cravings, to say no to promiscuity, to say no to despair, to say no to hopelessness, to say no to the animal that wants to dominate your life, to the cravings and thoughts that want to dominate your life. You have to be able to say no. Says the Rebbe, Shammai and Hillel weren't enemies. Shammai and Hillel were teaching this man the two pillars of Judaism. When he comes to Shammai and he says, teach me the whole Torah while I'm standing on one leg, Shammai said, let me teach you the whole Torah while you're standing on one leg. If you want to be a Jew, you have to be able to hold a stick, a matei elikim, and say no. You have to be able to push things away. You have to be able to reject. You have to be able to be disciplined. You have to be able to be a master of your life. You have to be able to be in control. You have to be able to be dachafay b'amasa binyan, for the sake of binyan, for the sake of building the world. According to the plan of its creator, you have to be able to reject. Reject certain instincts, reject certain situations, reject certain sites, reject certain places, reject certain websites, I should say. Dachafay. That's one pillar. And then he came to Hillel, and Hillel said, and now you got from Shammai foundation number one of Judaism. Now you're ready for foundation number two. If you understood the Sur Meirah, now you're ready for Asay Toiv. Now I could tell you that Judaism is about love. It's about seeing the goodness and the godliness. But that includes the ability to say no to that which will undermine your wisdom, undermine your clarity, undermine your morality, undermine your true self, your true relationship. This the Rebbe said, and maybe I'm telling you 10, 11 seconds, this was the Vart of Shammai. Now here, we have a Gemara at the surface. It seems like Shammai was very negative. But when you look at a deeper perspective, Shammai is saying something so beautiful, so positive, so powerful, because Dachavei Ba'amasa Binyan is an essential part of growth. An essential part of growth is a person has to be able to have the discipline to be able to reject. And these are the two pillars that we all need. Pillar number one, Sur Meirah. Pillar number two, Asay Toiv. On one hand, you see here a view some people think is contrary to what I just said a few minutes ago. Somebody who's missing something, you love even more. But there's no contradiction there. On the contrary, the two complement each other. Because real love towards another person doesn't mean accepting every behavior as holy and accepting every wrongdoing as divine and accepting every immoral act as the ultimate of morality. No. It means loving the Jew within the Jew, loving the beauty, loving the innocence, loving the harmony, loving the godliness, and trying to help the person to be able to overcome their own struggles, not in a judgmental and denigrating and insulting way, but in a true loving way. So he extends a perspective on Shammai from negative to positive. But what's the positive? The positive sometimes requires dachafay b'amasa binyan. Sometimes it requires tremendous rejection. They say that there was a big Rebbe, and before he passed away, he didn't have any successors. So his chassidim came to him and asked him, who should we go to? So he told them, you should go to a Rebbe, welche wird nicht haben kein Eitze von Machshava Zoros. Go to a Rebbe who will not give you advice what to do with alien thoughts, what to do with negative thoughts that bombard you. He won't have advice. That's who you should go to. He passed away, and they started to look for a Rebbe, for a new mentor. They went to one, and they said, Rebbe, what do we do with Machshava Zoros? What do you do when the thoughts come into your brain and they distract you from serving God? What do you do? So, of course, as a good Rebbe, he said, oh, you do this and this. They knew he's not the man because their Rebbe said, you got to find a man who won't give you advice. They go to another one, has this advice. Everyone has advice, solutions. This is what you do. I believe they came to the Heilige Ruzhiner, the Bishra Ruzhiner. They went into the Holy Ruzhiner and they asked him the question, what's the Eitzah for Machshava Zoros? What's the Eitzah for negative thoughts? So this is what he told them. He says, the Eitzah for Machshava Zoros is as in Shtokin Eitzah. The Eitzah for Machshava Zoros is as in Shtokin Eitzah, meaning the best solution for Machshava Zoros is the knowledge that there's no solution. You got to fight. You got to battle. It's the best advice in the world. Because the worst thing you could tell a diabetic is, you don't need insulin. You're perfect. The worst thing you could tell somebody with a heart condition is, you don't need a pacemaker. You just run the marathon every Monday. The greatest thing you could tell them is, you're a wonderful person, but you have a condition. And be aware of your condition. The Eitzah for Machshava Zoros is not to make believe you don't have them, but to know that there's no Eitzah. This is part of life. Part of life is that you have a stick. You have to have a stick. And at any moment you have to be able to have the courage to do dacha foiba masa binyan. And that's also the whole Torah standing on one leg. You know, today we speak so much about positive reinforcement, positive energy, love, give up some music, gives me some love. We talk about love, and it's all, I talk a lot about it, as you know. And sometimes people think that this approach is an approach that basically encourages weakness, encourages people to walk on crutches, and tells people, you know, you're in the mud, I love you, and stay in the mud. But that's not Teres HaBaal Shem Tov. That's not what the Baal Shem Tov came to say. The Baal Shem Tov said, listen to me, open your hearts. God loves you the way you are, but He takes pride in what you can be. Yes, He loves you the way you are, but He takes pride in what He sees in you, in what He sees in your potential. And the more you could connect to a person in the mud, the more you can help them see themselves in a new light. The more you can help them acquire their own stick to be able to say dachavay ba'mas habinyan, to be able to reject that which they have to reject. So Shammai and Hillel are not two ideological opponents. Shammai and Hillel are not two pathways that can't make peace. Shammai and Hillel both introduced the man to Judaism. And you know, today we live in a generation where we need a Soid HaYichud, where we have to bring the different paths together. Jewish history saw so many different pathways. But there comes a time where you have to find the underlying harmony, the underlying unity. You know the Maisa, they say, Gewaldike Maisa. There was once a guy, he needed to marry off his daughter, and he found a Gewaldike Bacher. The Bacher had one issue. Bacher tells his father-in-law, I only eat fleischiks. For breakfast I eat fleischiks. For lunch I eat fleischiks. For supper for sure I eat fleischiks. And I'm also a very, very religious person. I'm a machmer. I cannot sit at a table where somebody will eat not fleischiks, because crumbs may fall in the Mishnah in Chulin. Father-in-law says, no problem. Whenever we're eating milchiks, we'll give you a separate table, and you will sit by yourself and eat fleischiks. Shoin Mazel Tov. Simen Tov Mazel Tov Yelanu L'chol Yisrael. Amen. A few years later, he finds a chassan for his second daughter, gewaldige boy. The boy says, just one issue with me. I only eat milchiks. I never eat fleishiks. Breakfast, I eat dairy. Lunch, I eat dairy. Supper, I eat dairy. I don't eat anything else. Only milchiks. And I can't be close proximity with somebody who eats fleishiks because the crumbs can fall in, a shtickle schnitzel, a shtickle spare ribs. It's dangerous. Keep me away. Fanlo says, no problem. I'll make you a separate table where you will sit your whole life and eat milchiks. He was a wealthy fellow, and so every meal there were 3 separate sections. There was the section for the oldest son-in-law who ate fleishiks. You like it, huh? There was a section for the other son-in-law who ate only milchiks, who only ate dairy. And there was the section for the rest of the house who ate whatever they served, whatever it was, parav, milchiks, fleishiks. 2008 came, recession hit. He lost all of his millions of dollars and all of his buildings in Manhattan. The bank was after him for $80 million. The galgal hachayzer, the wheel turned to the other way, they turned downwards. He lost all his money. There was no money, not for Swiss cheese, not for Schmerling chocolate, not for mozzarella cheese, not for the triangle Swiss cheeses, not American, not Oilam, not even J&J, not 6 hours, not even 1 hour, no yogurt, no ice cream, and certainly no steak, no spare ribs, no chaluptas, and no flesh. There was only money for kartoffel, for potatoes, for tapuchei adama. That's what they started to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. A few pieces of baked potato. So when he served the baked potato, one son-in-law went to his table to eat his potato, the other one to his table to eat his potato. Father-in-law called him in one day and he says, Meile, as man hat gegessen Fleisch, Meile, as man hat gegessen Milchiks, Milch, Geschmacke Milch, Geschmacke Käse. I understand. We were eating meat, we were eating cheeses, you had your table, you had your table. Aber am erst Kartoffel kann man noch Hals nicht essen zusammen. Tell me, even for potatoes, you can't join forces and bring tables together? Come on, guys. For potatoes, you could come together. And I think in many ways, this little anecdote captures a profound truth. You know, sometimes you look at people, this one screams, milchiks, milchiks, milchiks. This one screams, fleishiks, fleishiks, fleishiks. So by default, they have to end up in 2 different camps, 2 different sections. I don't eat with you, you don't eat with me. I don't see things your way, you don't see things my way. I don't socialize with you, you don't socialize with me. We operate in different planes. But then there comes a time where you see there's a lot of poverty and all people want is a piece of potato. And then it's time for people to come together. We live today in a generation, any Jew, mamish, whatever he looks like, whatever she looks like, all backgrounds, all walks of life. I know from a little experience I have, everybody really wants, let's not call it potato, let's call it a little nurture, a little depth, a little inspiration. Everybody's looking to find some relationship with God, some relationship with their soul, some authentic relationship with Yiddishkeit, some real love, some passion, some confidence, some inner security, a way of navigating through life with wholesomeness, with depth, with emunah, with dveikus. Everybody, that's what everybody's looking for. So today, Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel, and all their manifestations really come together, need to come together. They're both teaching the person the whole Torah on one leg, because the whole Torah includes 2 points: Dachvei b'amas habinyin and Madalach sani lechavrach loisavi. The Heilige Kotzker Rebbe said, Elokim loisekalel. It says in Parshas Mishpatim, Elokim loisekalel. You know what that means? What does it mean, Elokim loisekalel? You know, Bakrim? Don't curse who? Don't curse Hashem, but it also means Elikim could mean Machlokes Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Akiva. Elokim can also mean the judges, the dayanim. Don't curse the judges. But now let me tell you what the Kotzker, Heilige Kotzker says. Elokim lo yisekalel, a gettliche Mensch schilt nicht. Elokim, a godly person, never curses. If you're godly, Elokim, if you're in touch with godliness, lo yisekalel, was shiltst du, don't curse. Godly people don't curse. Godly people don't even know what cursing means. Godly people are here to bless, to see the blessing everywhere. And even when they take a stick and dachafoy, what is it about? It's never about a curse. What should it be about? It should be about helping people reject that which doesn't really belong to them and embrace that which really belongs to them. If you really want to have an amasa binyan, if you really want to build, that's why it says amasa binyan. Who cares how he pushed him away? What if he pushed him away with a hadas? What if he pushed him away with a bottle? What if he pushed him away with his fist? He went like this, arois. No, ba'amasa binyan, he was telling him, if you want to build your life, if you want to be in sync with the structure of creation, then you have to reject toxic ingredients. You have to reject the blood cells, the bacteria that's damaging, that won't build you. You have to be able to have dachafai. A body that says, I only want red blood cells. I don't need white blood cells. I am just here to give oxygen and nutrition. What do I need? White blood cells to fight off viruses, to fight off diseases. I'm a man of love. Red blood cells. You're undermining your health, your biology, because there's things that come in and you have to be able to combat. So Shammai was telling him, Dachvei b'masa binyan. So this is the courage we need today, the courage to be able to integrate the two pillars. The pillar of understanding the dachafai, but really understanding that it's all based on a tremendous ava, on a tremendous love, which is what Hillel says. Until Mashiach comes, halacha kebeis Hillel, because even though you need white blood cells and red blood cells, but everybody knows which is greater in the body, you can't compare. The ratio of white blood cells to red blood cells is extraordinarily small, because even though there's a major need for dachvei b'masa binyan, but the chiyus of a Jew, the passion of the Jew, the objective of the Jew is to build, to bring out the positive, to bring out the love, to bring out the goodness, to bring out the holiness in ourselves and in the whole world around us. L'sakin oilam b'malchus shin dalid yud l'chayim, 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 l'chayim.
Artsige Friede, wenn wir weiter sehen, wenn wir Winde versehen, Allah wird Gebe gesinnt, wenn wir weiter sehen. Ay, teure Brüder, artsige Brüder, wenn wir weiter versehen, wenn wir Winde versehen, wenn wir Gebe gesinnt, wenn wir vorn zum Leben, wenn wir weiter sehen. Oy, teure Brüder, artsige Brüder, wenn wir weiter sehen, wenn wir weiter sehen, wenn wir vorn zum Leben, wenn wir weiter sehen. Teure Brüder, artsige Brüder, wenn wir weiter sehen, wenn wir weiter sehen. Als bestimmt geben, dann leben, wenn wir vorn zum Leben, wenn wir weiter sehen. Ay, teure Brüder, artsige Brüder, wenn wir weiter sehen, wenn wir weiter sehen. Aber bestimmt geben, dann leben, wenn wir vorn zum Leben, wenn wir weiter sehen. Teure Brüder, artsige Brüder, wenn wir weiter sehen, wenn wir weiter sehen. Aber bestimmt geben, dann leben, wenn wir weiter sehen. Teure Brüder, artsige Brüder, wenn wir weiter sehen, wenn wir weiter sehen.
I want to thank Dovi Meisels on the guitar and Barry Carpin on the keyboards. Die, 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 bam, bam, bam,
yeah.